A desperate phone call. A CEO racing through the rain. 6-year-old Mia stands alone by a river, protecting a basket with an abandoned baby wearing a mysterious glowing necklace. When her mother sees the child, her reaction reveals a shocking truth. This baby is family. What dark secret connects this innocent child to the Hartford family, and why was he left to die in a storm? Before we begin, type love in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. The spring rain fell steadily against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Hartford mansion, creating rivulets that distorted the manicured gardens beyond. Inside, 6-year-old Mia Hartford pressed her small hands against the glass, watching the droplets race each other downward. Her golden hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and her pink raincoat hung by the door, ready for an adventure her nanny had strictly forbidden. "Miss Mia, you need to stay inside today," Carla had said that morning, her round face stern but kind. "The river is high from all this rain. Your father would have my head if anything happened to you." But Mia wasn't like other children who simply obeyed. At 6 years old, she possessed an unusual combination of fearlessness and empathy that often led her into situations that made adults nervous. Her father, Richard Hartford, CEO of Hartford Industries, was used to getting emergency calls from nannies and teachers about his daughter's latest rescue mission. Whether it was bringing home stray animals or defending kids at school who were being picked on, today something pulled at Mia stronger than any warning. Through the rain-streaked window, she could see the willow trees near the river bending in the wind, their branches seeming to beckon her. The family's estate sprawled across 15 acres of prime Connecticut countryside, with most of it wild and unexplored. Mia's favorite place was the secluded bend in the river where her father had promised to build her a treehouse someday when she was older. She glanced over her shoulder. Carla was in the kitchen, and her mother, Catherine, was at one of her charity luncheons in the city. Her father was at his office downtown, probably in another endless meeting. Mia bit her lip, weighing the consequences of disobedience against the mysterious feeling that she needed to go outside. Something was out there. She could feel it. Making her decision, Mia quietly slipped on her pink raincoat and her small rain boots. She knew the house's layout perfectly, every exit, every blind spot where the security cameras didn't quite reach. Her father's security team was good, but they were trained to watch for threats coming in, not for a 6-year-old girl sneaking out. The side door near her father's study was her escape route. She pushed it open slowly, wincing at the slight creak, and stepped into the cool afternoon rain. The drops were larger than she'd thought, immediately soaking through her hood. But Mia pressed forward. The grass was slick beneath her boots as she made her way across the lawn toward the tree line. The river was about a quarter-mile from the house, hidden behind a grove of old oak trees and the drooping willows that her mother always said made the estate look properly romantic. As Mia walked, she sang quietly to herself, a habit she had when she was nervous. Her father always said she had his mother's voice, clear and sweet. When she reached the river, Mia stopped, her breath catching. The water was indeed high, rushing past with a force she'd never seen before. Branches and debris tumbled along the current, and the usually peaceful riverbank was muddy and treacherous. For a moment, Mia reconsidered her decision. Maybe Carla had been right. Maybe she should go back. Then she heard it, a sound that didn't belong to the storm. A tiny cry, barely audible over the rain and rushing water. Mia's heart hammered in her chest. She knew that sound. She'd heard it when her cousin's baby sister was born last year. It was the cry of an infant. "Hello?" Mia called out, her small voice nearly swallowed by the wind. "Is someone there?" The crying continued, and Mia followed it, carefully picking her way along the riverbank. Her boots squelched in the mud, and branches caught at her coat, but she pushed forward. The sound grew louder, more urgent, until she saw it, a wicker basket wedged between 2 rocks at the water's edge, caught before the current could sweep it away. Mia's eyes widened. Inside the basket, wrapped in a soaked blue blanket, was a baby. A real, living baby with dark hair plastered to its tiny head, mouth open in a desperate wail. But what caught Mia's attention most was the necklace around the infant's neck, a simple cord holding a stone that glowed with an eerie green light, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," Mia whispered, rushing forward. She'd seen enough adult panic to know this was an emergency. The basket was tilting dangerously as the water pulled at it, and the baby was getting wetter by the second. Mia grabbed the handle of the basket with both hands and pulled with all her 6-year-old strength. It was heavier than she expected. She planted her feet, leaned back, and pulled again. The basket came free from the rocks with a sucking sound, and Mia stumbled backward, landing hard on her bottom in the mud. But she didn't let go. The baby's cries grew louder, and Mia's training from her mother's charity work with children kicked in. She'd been taught to be calm in emergencies. "It's okay, baby," Mia said softly, even though her own heart was racing. "I've got you. You're safe now." With shaking hands, Mia pulled out her phone, a simple device her father had given her for emergencies only. She dialed the number she knew by heart, the one that always answered no matter what, her father's direct line. In his corner office at Hartford Tower, Richard Hartford was reviewing quarterly reports when his phone buzzed with a call from Mia's emergency line. He answered before the second ring, already standing up. "Mia? What's wrong?" His deep voice was sharp with instant concern. "Daddy?" Mia's small voice came through, trembling but trying to be brave. "Daddy, I found a baby." Richard felt his blood run cold. "What? Mia, where are you? Are you safe?" "I'm by the river, Daddy. The baby was in a basket in the water. I pulled him out, but he's so wet and cold and he keeps crying, and there's something glowing on him, and I don't know what to do." The words tumbled out faster and faster until Mia was nearly crying herself. "Stay exactly where you are," Richard commanded, already grabbing his coat and car keys. "Don't move. Don't touch anything else. I'm coming right now. Do you understand me, Mia?" "Yes, Daddy, but please hurry. The baby needs help." "I'm already in the elevator." "Keep talking to me. Describe exactly what you see." As Mia described the basket, the soaked blanket, and the strange, glowing necklace, Richard was already calling his head of security with his other phone, barking orders for an ambulance and police notification. His mind raced through possibilities: an abandoned child, a kidnapping gone wrong, a trafficking situation. None of them good. His car screeched out of the underground parking garage, and Richard broke every speed limit getting home. 15 minutes had never felt so long. Mia's voice stayed on the line the entire time, talking to both him and the baby, trying to comfort the tiny stranger with the same gentle tone she used with injured birds. When Richard's black Mercedes tore up the private drive and he saw his little girl crouched by the river, mud-covered and soaking wet, but holding that basket like her life depended on it, something cracked in his chest. Mia looked up at him with those big blue eyes, her mother's eyes, and said, "I couldn't leave him, Daddy. He needed help." Richard dropped to his knees beside her, pulling both Mia and the basket into his arms. The baby's cries had weakened to whimpers, and Richard could see the child was dangerously cold. He shrugged off his suit jacket and wrapped it around the basket, then lifted both his daughter and the mysterious infant into his arms. "You did good, sweetheart," he said hoarsely. "You did so good. Let's get you both inside." The ambulance was pulling into the circular drive as Richard carried his precious cargo toward the house. Carla stood at the door, her hand over her mouth in shock. The security team surrounded them, and Richard barked orders while paramedics rushed forward to check both children. Mia was fine, wet and muddy, but unhurt. The baby, however, was hypothermic and needed immediate medical attention. As the paramedics worked, Richard finally got a clear look at the infant. A boy, maybe 2 months old, with delicate features and that startling dark hair, and the necklace, that glowing green stone that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. "Sir, we need to take the infant to the hospital," the lead paramedic said. "He's stable, but needs monitoring." "I'm going with you," Richard said firmly. "Mia, you stay here with Carla." "But Daddy—" "No arguments. You've been very brave, but you need to get warm and dry now. I'll call you from the hospital, I promise." As the ambulance pulled away with Richard inside, holding the mysterious baby, Carla wrapped Mia in warm towels and led her inside. The security team began a sweep of the riverbank, looking for any clues about how the basket had ended up there, and Mia, despite her exhaustion, couldn't stop thinking about that glowing green necklace and the strange pull she'd felt to go to the river in the first place. At Hartford General Hospital, doctors swarmed the infant. Richard stood outside the examination room, pacing and fielding calls. The police had been notified, and detectives were already on their way to interview him and process the scene. Child Protective Services had been alerted. The wheels of bureaucracy were turning, but all Richard could think about was Mia's voice on the phone saying, "I couldn't leave him, Daddy." That's when his phone rang again. His wife, Catherine. "Richard, what's going on? I just got a call from Carla saying there was an emergency. Is Mia okay?" "Mia's fine, but we have a situation." Richard quickly explained what had happened, leaving out the detail about the glowing necklace. Something about that detail felt too strange to mention yet. "A baby? Someone abandoned a baby on our property?" Catherine's voice rose. "Richard, this is serious. We need to distance ourselves from this immediately." The press can wait, Catherine. There's a child who needs help. I'm coming home now. Don't do anything else until I get there." The call ended, and Richard felt a familiar tension in his chest. Catherine was his wife of 7 years, Mia's mother, and the daughter of one of Connecticut's most prominent families. She'd married him when Hartford Industries was still growing, betting on his ambition. Their marriage was solid but practical, built on mutual respect and shared social standing more than passion. Catherine loved Mia fiercely, but she also loved their reputation and the life they'd built. Hours passed. The baby was stabilized and moved to a pediatric ward. Police detectives came and went, taking statements and photographs. They'd found no identification in the basket, no note, nothing but the blue blanket and that mysterious necklace. When they tried to remove it, the baby became agitated, crying inconsolably until they fastened it back around his tiny neck. "What is that thing?" Detective Sarah Morrison asked, watching the stone pulse with green light. "I have no idea," Richard admitted, "but it seems important to him." As evening fell, Richard returned home to find Catherine's car in the drive. He walked through the door to find his wife sitting in the living room, still in her designer suit from the luncheon, with Mia curled up beside her. Mia's eyes were red from crying. "Daddy!" Mia jumped up and ran to him. "Is the baby okay?" "He's going to be fine, thanks to you," Richard assured her, lifting her into his arms despite his exhaustion. "You saved his life, Mia." "Richard, we need to talk," Catherine said, her voice carefully controlled. "In private." After settling Mia with Carla and strict instructions to go to bed, Richard joined Catherine in his study. She stood by the window, her back to him, tension evident in every line of her body. "The police called me," she said without turning around. "They want to know if we're interested in emergency foster placement while they search for the baby's parents or next of kin. We haven't discussed that yet. Well, I'm discussing it now." Catherine finally turned, and Richard saw something in her face he couldn't quite read. Fear? Anger? "This baby appears on our property, mysteriously, in a basket in a storm, and you want to just take him in? Richard, think about what this looks like." "It looks like we're helping a child in need. It looks like we might be involved somehow." Catherine's voice cracked. The media will have a field day. People will ask questions. Our reputation... Since when do you care more about reputation than doing what's right? Catherine's eyes filled with tears, which shocked Richard. His wife didn't cry. In 7 years of marriage, he'd seen her cry maybe 3 times. You don't understand. I need to see this baby. What? Why? I need to see him. Tomorrow, at the hospital. She turned away again, wiping at her eyes. Can you arrange that? Catherine, what's going on? Please, Richard, just let me see the baby tomorrow. Then we'll talk. The next morning arrived grey and overcast, the previous day's storm having cleared, but leaving behind a damp chill that seemed to seep into everything. Mia woke early, her small face pressed against her bedroom window, watching for her father's car. She'd barely slept, her mind spinning with images of the crying baby and that mysterious glowing necklace. Miss Mia, breakfast is ready, Carla called from the doorway. But Mia didn't move. Is Daddy taking me to see the baby today? Mia asked hopefully. Carla's expression softened. Your mother wants to see the baby first, sweetheart. She and your father are going to the hospital this morning. But I found him. I should be there. Mia's voice rose with the particular indignation of a 6-year-old who felt she was being treated unfairly. I know, darling, but there are grown-up things that need to be handled first. Your father promised you could visit later this week when the doctors say it's okay. Mia's lower lip trembled, but she held back tears. She'd learned from watching her father that crying didn't solve problems. Action did. Fine, she said with as much dignity as a 6-year-old could muster. But I'm drawing him a picture so he knows someone cares about him. At Hartford General Hospital, Richard and Catherine sat in the administrator's office, signing temporary emergency guardianship papers. The police investigation had revealed nothing, no missing persons reports matching the baby's description, no witnesses, no leads on how the basket ended up in their river. The mysterious necklace had been logged as evidence, but left with the child after medical staff noted his extreme distress when separated from it. Mr. and Mrs. Hartford, I want to be clear about what this means, said Dr. Patricia Chen, the hospital's head of pediatrics. You're taking responsibility for this infant's care while CPS and the police continue their investigation. This could be days, weeks, or months. Are you prepared for that commitment? Catherine hadn't spoken since they'd arrived. She sat rigidly in her chair, her designer handbag clutched in her lap, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the leather. Richard glanced at her, concerned. We're prepared, Richard said firmly. Our daughter saved this child's life. We'll see it through. Then let me take you to see him. They followed Dr. Chen through the pediatric ward's corridors. The walls were painted with cheerful murals of animals and rainbows, but the atmosphere felt heavy to Richard, as though they were walking towards something momentous. Catherine's breathing had become shallow, almost panicked. Catherine, are you okay? Richard asked quietly. I just need to see him, she whispered back. Dr. Chen stopped at a door marked Infant Care, Isolation 3, and checked her clipboard. He's been thriving overnight. Good appetite, healthy vitals. No signs of abuse or neglect beyond the abandonment itself. He's remarkably resilient. She pushed open the door. I'll give you a few minutes alone. The room was small but warm, filled with soft lighting and the gentle beep of monitors. In a clear plastic bassinet, wrapped in a white hospital blanket, lay the baby. He was awake, his dark eyes staring at nothing in particular, and around his tiny neck that green stone pulsed with its otherworldly light. Catherine stopped dead in the doorway. Her face drained of all colour, and she gripped the doorframe for support. No! She breathed. No, it can't be. Richard turned to her, alarmed. Catherine, what? But Catherine had already rushed forward to the bassinet. She stared down at the baby with an expression of absolute horror and recognition. Her hands shook as she reached out, then pulled back, then reached out again to gently touch the glowing necklace. "Where did this come from?" she demanded, her voice sharp with hysteria. "Richard, where exactly did Mia find him?" "By the river, you know that. Catherine, what's wrong? What do you know about this?" Catherine's eyes filled with tears that spilled down her cheeks, ruining her careful makeup. "The necklace," she whispered. "I know this necklace. I gave it to her." "Gave it to who?" "Catherine, you're not making sense." Catherine sank into the chair beside the bassinet, her whole body trembling. 8 years ago, before I met you, I had a younger sister, Clarissa. She was wild, reckless, everything I wasn't. She got involved with the wrong crowd, drugs, bad relationships. My parents tried to help her, but she wouldn't listen. Catherine's voice cracked. She disappeared when she was 21, just vanished one day. We searched everywhere, filed missing persons reports, hired private investigators. Nothing. It was like she'd evaporated. Richard knelt beside his wife, his mind reeling. "Catherine, I don't understand. What does your sister have to do with that necklace?" Catherine cut him off, pointing at the glowing stone. "It was my grandmother's. A family heirloom passed down for generations. My grandmother said it had protective properties, that it would keep the wearer safe. I gave it to Clarissa the last time I saw her, begged her to wear it, to let it protect her since I couldn't." She looked up at Richard with devastated eyes. "This baby has my sister's necklace, Richard, which means—" The implication hung in the air like a thunderclap. Richard looked from his wife to the baby and back again. "You think this is Clarissa's child? Your nephew?" "I don't think. I know." Catherine reached into the bassinet with shaking hands and gently turned the baby's head to the side. Behind his tiny left ear, barely visible, was a small birthmark shaped like a crescent moon. "It's a family mark. I have it. My mother has it. Clarissa had it." Her voice broke completely. "And now he has it." Richard's mind spun through the implications. "But if this is Clarissa's son, where is she? Why was he abandoned? And how did he end up on our property?" "I don't know," Catherine sobbed, "but we have to find her, Richard. If she abandoned him, something terrible must have happened. Clarissa loved children. She used to say she wanted 6 kids someday. She wouldn't have given up her baby unless—" Catherine couldn't finish the sentence. Richard stood and began pacing, his business mind automatically organizing the chaos into action items. "We need to hire private investigators, the best ones we can find. If Clarissa is alive, we'll find her. If something happened to her, we need to know. This baby deserves to know where he comes from." "And Mia?" Catherine asked softly. "How do we explain this to Mia?" "We tell her the truth," Richard said firmly, "that she didn't just save a baby, she saved her cousin, her family." Catherine looked down at the baby, her nephew, and something shifted in her expression. The horror and shock began to give way to something else: determination, love. She reached down and carefully lifted the infant from his bassinet, cradling him against her chest. The green necklace pulsed brighter for a moment, then settled into a steady glow. "Hello, little one," Catherine whispered. "I'm your Aunt Catherine. I'm so sorry you've been alone, but you're not alone anymore. I promise you that." The baby made a soft cooing sound and nestled against her, and Richard watched as his wife's tears fell on the white hospital blanket. This wasn't the Catherine he knew from society functions and charity galas. This was someone raw and real, broken open by loss and hope in equal measure. "We need to name him," Richard said quietly. "He can't just be baby dough in the system." Catherine looked up, her eyes red but fierce. "Clarissa loved the stars. She used to drag me out at night to watch meteor showers, to point out constellations. She said stars were proof that beautiful things could exist in darkness." She looked down at the baby. "His name should be Tyler. It means rest and comfort, because he's finally safe. He's finally come to rest with family who will love him. Tyler Hartford, Richard said, testing the name. Until we find Clarissa, until we know his real last name, he's Tyler Hartford, our son. Catherine nodded through her tears. Our son. At the Hartford mansion, Mia had spent the morning creating an elaborate welcome picture for the baby. She'd used every crayon in her box, drawing a house with a river beside it, a little girl holding a basket, and a baby with a glowing green circle around its neck. At the top, in her careful 6-year-old handwriting, she'd written, "Welcome home, baby. Love, Mia." When Carla received the call that Mr. and Mrs. Hartford were bringing the baby home that afternoon, she sprung into action. The guest room nearest to Mia's was converted into a temporary nursery. Baby supplies that Catherine had secretly stored in the attic after Mia outgrew them were brought down and assembled. Within hours, the mansion was ready to welcome its newest resident. Mia heard the car pull up and raced to the front door, her drawing clutched in her hand. She burst outside just as her mother climbed out of the car, holding a bundle wrapped in a blue blanket. "Mommy! Is that him? Is that the baby?" Catherine's eyes were red, but she was smiling, a real smile that Mia rarely saw. "Yes, darling. This is Tyler. He's going to stay with us." "Tyler," Mia repeated, trying out the name. She peered at the sleeping infant in her mother's arms. "He's so small. Is he going to be okay?" "He's going to be more than okay," Catherine said, her voice thick with emotion. "Mia, there's something important we need to tell you. This baby, Tyler, he's not just any baby, he's family." Mia's eyes widened. "Family? Like a brother?" "Like a cousin," Richard said, joining them from the other side of the car. "Mia, do you remember how Mommy has a sister who went away a long time ago?" Mia nodded slowly. She'd heard whispers about Aunt Clarissa, the mysterious sister who was never discussed at family gatherings, whose photos had been quietly removed from the halls. "Well," Richard continued, kneeling down to Mia's level, "we think Tyler is Aunt Clarissa's son, which makes him your cousin. And because Aunt Clarissa isn't here right now, we're going to take care of him. All of us, as a family." Mia's face transformed with wonder and joy. "I have a cousin. I saved my cousin." She looked at Tyler with new eyes, reaching out to gently touch his tiny hand. "I'm Mia," she said seriously, as if the baby could understand. "I'm your cousin, and I found you, and I'm going to protect you forever." The baby's hand closed around Mia's finger, and the green necklace flared briefly with light. Mia gasped with delight. "Mommy, Daddy, did you see that? He knows me. He knows I'm family." Catherine and Richard exchanged glances over their children's heads. The mystery of the necklace was just one of many questions that needed answering. But for now, in this moment, with Mia beaming and Tyler safe in Catherine's arms, they had something precious: hope. Inside the house, Carla had prepared a feast for dinner, sensing that the family needed something to celebrate despite the strangeness of the situation. As they gathered around the table, with Tyler sleeping peacefully in a portable bassinet beside Catherine, Mia chatted excitedly about all the things she would teach Tyler when he got bigger. "I'll show him my favorite hiding spots," Mia said between bites of mashed potatoes, "and the best trees for climbing, and where the fish swim in the river in summer, and I'll teach him to be brave, because sometimes being brave is scary, but you have to do it anyway." "That's very wise, Mia," Richard said, his heart swelling with pride for his remarkable daughter. "Daddy," Mia said suddenly, her face turning serious, "why did Aunt Clarissa leave Tyler by the river? Doesn't she love him?" The question hung in the air, and Catherine's fork clattered against her plate. Richard reached over and squeezed his wife's hand. "We don't know why yet, sweetheart," Richard said carefully, "but we're going to find out. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that don't make sense to us, but there's usually a reason. We have to trust that Aunt Clarissa did what she thought was best, even if we don't understand it yet." Maybe she was scared, Mia suggested. Maybe she needed someone to help her baby, and she knew we would because we're good people. Maybe, Catherine said softly. Maybe she did. That night, after Mia was tucked into bed, and Tyler was settled in his new nursery, Catherine and Richard sat in Richard's study, a bottle of whiskey on the desk between them. Richard had made calls to 3 different private investigation firms, choosing the most discreet and capable. They would begin searching for Clarissa immediately. "What if we don't find her?" Catherine asked, staring into her glass. "What if she's dead, Richard? What if that's why Tyler was abandoned? Then we raise him as our own," Richard said firmly. "We give him the life Clarissa would have wanted for him. We make sure he knows he's loved. And if we do find her, if she's alive but in trouble or—" Catherine couldn't finish. "Then we help her however we can. She's family, Catherine, and family doesn't turn their back on family no matter what." Catherine nodded, but Richard could see the fear in her eyes. Fear of what they might discover. Fear of what the truth might cost them. But beneath the fear, there was something stronger, determination. In the nursery, Mia had snuck out of bed and was sitting on the floor beside Tyler's crib, her small hand reaching through the bars to hold the babies. The green necklace cast a soft glow over both children, pulsing in rhythm with their breathing. "I'll keep you safe, Tyler," Mia whispered. "I promise. Whatever happened, whatever made your mommy leave you, I'll make sure nothing bad ever happens to you again. That's what family does." Tyler stirred in his sleep, his tiny fingers tightening around Mia's, and the necklace glowed brighter, as if sealing a covenant between the 2 children. In that moment, something profound shifted in the Hartford house. They were no longer just a wealthy family going through the motions of life. They were united by purpose, by love, and by the mysteries yet to be solved. 3 weeks passed in a blur of adjustment and investigation. The Hartford mansion transformed around its newest resident. Tyler's presence brought an energy to the stately home that had been missing. The sound of a baby's laughter, the midnight feedings, the controlled chaos of bottles and diapers and tiny socks that somehow disappeared in the laundry. Mia took her role as protective cousin with fierce seriousness. She insisted on helping with every feeding, every diaper change, every bath. She read him stories from her picture books, showed him her favorite toys, and spent hours simply watching him sleep, marveling at his tiny perfection. "Miss Mia, you need to eat your breakfast," Carla would say, finding the girl standing at Tyler's crib when she should have been at the kitchen table. "But what if he needs me?" Mia would protest. "He has your mother and me. You need to keep your strength up so you can help him when he's older." Catherine had undergone perhaps the most dramatic transformation. The society wife, who used to spend her days at charity luncheons and spa appointments, now spent every moment with Tyler. She'd taken a leave of absence from her volunteer boards. She cancelled social engagements. She was present in a way she'd rarely been, even with Mia when she was an infant, and Richard watched the change with a mixture of relief and concern. "You need to take care of yourself too," he told her one morning, finding her in the nursery at dawn, simply holding the sleeping baby. "I failed Clarissa," Catherine said quietly. "I let her slip away. I was so focused on being perfect, on maintaining the family reputation, that I didn't see how much pain she was in. I didn't protect her." She looked up at Richard with haunted eyes. "I won't fail her son. I won't fail Tyler." The private investigators Richard had hired were working around the clock. A man named Robert Torres, a former FBI agent with an impressive track record of finding missing persons, had taken personal charge of the case. He visited the mansion regularly to update them on his progress and ask increasingly detailed questions about Clarissa's past. On a Tuesday afternoon, Torres arrived for one of these meetings. Mia was at school, Tyler was napping, and Catherine and Richard sat in the study with Torres spread his files across the coffee table. I've traced Clarissa's movements up to about 6 years ago, Torres said, pointing to a timeline he'd created. She was living in New York City, working as a waitress, staying in various temporary situations. Then there's a gap of about 8 months where I can't find any record of her. No credit card usage, no employment, no lease agreements. She's completely off the grid. What does that mean? Catherine asked, her voice tight. It could mean several things. She could have been living with someone who supported her financially. She could have been somewhere that doesn't generate paper trails, homeless, or in an institution, or... Torres paused. Or she could have been held somewhere against her will. Catherine's hand flew to her mouth. You think she was kidnapped? I'm not ruling anything out. After that 8-month gap, I pick up her trail again. She surfaces in Portland, Oregon, gets a job at a bookstore, rents a small apartment. This is about 5.5 years ago. She seems to be trying to build a stable life. Torres pulled out a photograph. A grainy security camera image of a young woman with long dark hair, Catherine's eyes, and Clarissa's delicate features. This is from the bookstore. The manager remembers her, said she was quiet, kept to herself, but was good with customers. She's beautiful, Catherine whispered, touching the photo. She looks so much older, so tired. According to the manager, Clarissa worked there for about 7 months. Then one day, she didn't show up for her shift. Never came back. The manager went to her apartment to check on her, but Clarissa had already cleared out, left no forwarding address, no explanation. When was this? Richard asked. Almost exactly 5 years ago. Which, if Tyler is approximately 3 months old now, would align with Clarissa being in the early stages of pregnancy when she disappeared from Portland. Catherine did the math in her head. So she was pregnant, alone, scared enough to run from her job and apartment. Where did she go? That's what I'm trying to find out. The trail goes cold again for several years. Then 6 months ago, I get a hit. Torres pulled out another document. A woman matching Clarissa's description was treated at a free clinic in Hartford, this very city, Mrs. Hartford. She was approximately 6 months pregnant at the time. She gave a fake name, but the clinic keeps detailed notes, and the description matches, including. He pointed to a specific notation. The birthmark behind her left ear. Richard and Catherine exchanged shocked glances. Clarissa was here, in Hartford, 6 months ago? It appears so. The clinic staff remember her because she seemed frightened. She refused to give any contact information or allow them to file her information with any government systems. She paid in cash. They convinced her to come back for one more checkup a month later, but she never showed. But why would she come here? Catherine's voice rose. If she needed help, why wouldn't she come to us? We're her family. Torres's expression was gentle, but firm. Mrs. Hartford, from what you've told me about Clarissa's relationship with your family before she disappeared, is it possible she didn't think she'd be welcome? That she was ashamed or afraid of judgment? Catherine's face crumbled. I made her feel that way. When she started using drugs, when she dropped out of college, my parents and I, we lectured her. We told her she was throwing her life away, that she was an embarrassment to the family. We gave her ultimatums instead of support. Tears streamed down her face. She came back here, pregnant and desperate, and she probably thought we'd reject her. Reject her baby. Richard moved to sit beside his wife, pulling her into his arms. Catherine, you can't know that. You can't blame yourself for choices Clarissa made. But I can, Catherine sobbed. Don't you see? She was so close. She was right here in our city carrying Tyler, and instead of coming to us, she felt she had no choice but to abandon him in a river. What kind of desperation does that take? What kind of fear? Torres cleared his throat. There's more. I've been investigating the area where the baby was found. Your property backs up to several miles of undeveloped woodland. About 2 miles upstream, there's an abandoned factory from the industrial era. Local police say it's sometimes used by homeless populations for shelter. I went there yesterday." He pulled out his phone and showed them photos. Someone's been living in a small section of the factory. Recently, there's evidence of a fire pit, some basic supplies, children's items. "Do you think it was Clarissa?" Richard asked. "I found this." Torres held up an evidence bag. Inside was a water-damaged journal, its pages warped but legible. It was hidden under a loose floorboard. "I haven't read it extensively, that's for you to do if you choose, but I read enough to confirm it belonged to your sister, Mrs. Hartford, and it mentions the baby. It mentions choosing your property to leave him." Catherine reached for the journal with shaking hands. She opened it carefully and immediately recognized the handwriting, Clarissa's distinctive slanted script. The entries were dated, the most recent just 4 weeks ago, the day before Mia found Tyler. "I can't do this anymore," Catherine read aloud, her voice breaking. "I've tried so hard to be strong, to provide for him, but I'm failing. He deserves better than a mother who can barely feed herself, who jumps at every shadow, who's too afraid to take him to a real doctor when he gets sick. He deserves the life I can never give him." Richard squeezed his wife's shoulder as she continued reading. "I've been watching the Hartford house for weeks. I've seen my sister there, so perfect, so put together. I've seen her little girl playing in the yard. That should be me. That should be my life. But I ruined everything, and I can't ruin him too. The only thing I can give my son is a chance at the life I destroyed. Catherine is his aunt. That little girl is his cousin. They'll take care of him. They have to." Catherine couldn't continue. She clutched the journal to her chest and wept. Richard took it gently from her hands and flipped through the pages. There were months of entries, documenting Clarissa's pregnancy, her struggles, her fear of someone she never named, but referred to only as him. References to hiding, to running, to being found. "Torres, she was running from someone," Richard said grimly. "She says here, if he finds me, he'll take the baby. I can't let that happen. I'll never let that happen." Torres nodded. "I believe Clarissa left Tyler on your property because she thought it was the only way to keep him safe from whoever she was running from. By abandoning him where she knew he'd be found by family, she removed the connection between them. If this person is looking for a woman with a baby, Tyler would be hidden in plain sight with you." But where is she now?" Catherine demanded. "If she was living in that factory, where did she go after leaving Tyler?" "I don't know," Torres admitted. "The factory was abandoned when I found it. But Mrs. Hartford, I have to ask you something difficult. Is there any chance that Clarissa intended to?" He couldn't finish the sentence. "No," Catherine said fiercely. "No! Clarissa wouldn't. She's a survivor. She fought to keep Tyler safe this long. She wouldn't just give up." "Then we keep looking," Richard said firmly. "Torres, I want you to expand the search. Check hospitals, shelters, anywhere she might go. Check for any Jane Does matching her description. Hire more investigators if you need to. Money is no object. I'll find her, Mr. Hartford. If she's out there, I'll find her." After Torres left, Catherine sat in the nursery watching Tyler sleep, the journal open in her lap. She read through more entries, each one breaking her heart further. Clarissa had documented Tyler's birth, alone, terrified, in a motel room she'd paid for with the last of her money. She'd written about the first time he smiled, the first time he grabbed her finger, the way his eyes reminded her of their grandmother. And she'd written about the necklace. "Grandmother's necklace has always protected our family," Catherine read. "That's what she told us, wasn't it, Catherine? That as long as we wore it, we'd be safe. I've kept it on Tyler since the day he was born. It's the only thing I have to give him from our family, the only connection to who he really is. Sometimes, when I'm scared, when I think I can't go on, it glows brighter and I feel stronger. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe it's just stress, but I swear it's kept us safe this long." Catherine touched the glowing stone around Tyler's neck. Whatever its origins, whatever strange properties it might have, it was a link to their grandmother, to their family, to the strength that had been passed down through generations of women who had faced impossible choices. When Mia came home from school that afternoon, she found her mother red-eyed in the nursery. Mia climbed into Catherine's lap without a word, and together they watched Tyler sleep. "Did the private man find Aunt Clarissa?" Mia asked quietly. "Not yet, sweetie, but he's getting closer. He found out that she was living near here and that she left Tyler with us on purpose because she wanted him to be safe." "Mike, she must love him very much," Mia said wisely. "To give him away, to keep him safe, that's a hard kind of love." Catherine marveled at her daughter's insight. "Yes, darling, it's the hardest kind of love there is. When we find her, I'll tell her thank you," Mia declared. "Thank you for trusting us with Tyler. And I'll tell her that we're keeping him safe, just like she wanted, and that she can come home now, that we're her family, and families forgive each other." That night, as Richard and Catherine prepared for bed, they talked about next steps. The investigation would continue. They'd hired a security team to watch for anyone suspicious near the property, in case whoever Clarissa was running from came looking. They'd begun the process of formal adoption, preparing for the possibility that Clarissa might never come back, or might not be in a position to care for Tyler, even if they found her. "What if she is alive, but doesn't want to be found?" Catherine asked. "What if she's building a new life somewhere, and we disrupt it?" "Then we respect her wishes," Richard said, "but we make sure she knows that Tyler is safe, loved and waiting for her if she ever wants to come back. We don't pressure her, we let her know she's not alone, that she never was." Catherine nodded, but her mind was elsewhere, working through the journal entries, trying to piece together who Clarissa had been running from and why. The entries mentioned a man who'd seemed charming at first, who'd swept Clarissa off her feet, who'd become controlling and then dangerous. References to debts, to threats, to Clarissa realizing too late that she'd gotten involved with someone connected to organized crime. "Richard," Catherine said slowly, "what if the person Clarissa was running from finds out we have Tyler? What if they come here?" "Then we protect him," Richard said without hesitation. "That's what family does. We protect each other, no matter the cost." In the nursery, the green necklace pulsed steadily, its light casting shadows on the walls. Mia had snuck in again, as she did most nights, to sleep on the floor beside Tyler's crib. As both children slept, the necklace's glow seemed to extend, creating a protective circle of light around them both. The mystery of Clarissa's disappearance, of Tyler's abandonment, of the danger that might still be lurking, all of it loomed ahead like storm clouds on the horizon. But in that moment, in that room, there was peace, there was family, there was love strong enough to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the Hartford estate, a woman watched from the shadows, her heart breaking and healing in equal measure as she saw her son safe in the arms of family, protected by the very sister she'd been too afraid to face. The next 2 months brought a deceptive calm to the Hartford household, the kind of stillness that precedes a storm. Tyler thrived under their care, growing stronger and more alert each day. At nearly 4 months old now, he smiled constantly, real smiles that lit up his whole face, especially when Mia sang to him or made funny faces. The green necklace remained around his neck, its glow steady and reassuring, though Catherine had taken it to 3 different gemologists who all claimed they'd never seen anything like it. "It's not any stone I can identify," the last expert had said, holding it up to the light. "It has properties of jade, but the luminescence is. Well, it's impossible, frankly. Stones don't generate their own light, yet this one does." Mia had started first grade but rushed home every day to spend time with Tyler. She'd made him a chart tracking all his firsts. First smile, first time he grabbed a toy, first time he slept through the night. She talked to him constantly, telling him stories about their family, about the day she found him, about the adventures they'd have when he was older. "When you're big like me," Mia told him one afternoon, "I'll teach you to ride a bike. And we'll build that treehouse Daddy promised. And I'll show you the secret place by the river where I found you, so you'll know how brave you were, even when you were tiny." Catherine had hired a team of nannies, but she remained Tyler's primary caretaker. She'd learned the specific way he liked to be held, the exact temperature he preferred his bottles, the particular lullaby that soothed him when nothing else worked. Richard often found her in the nursery late at night, simply watching Tyler sleep, her fingers tracing the outline of the glowing necklace. "You need to sleep too," he'd tell her gently. "What if she comes back tonight?" Catherine would whisper. "What if Clarissa finally comes home and I'm not awake to hear her?" But Clarissa didn't come home. Torres and his team had followed every lead, interviewed dozens of people, checked surveillance footage from across the state. They'd found evidence that Clarissa had been moving through a network of women's shelters and safe houses, always staying ahead of someone, never settling down. The trail was faint but persistent, like breadcrumbs leading deeper into a dark forest. Then, on a crisp October morning, everything changed. Richard was in his home office, reviewing contracts, when Torres called with urgency in his voice. "Mr. Hartford, I need you and your wife to come to my office immediately. I've found something." An hour later, Catherine and Richard sat across from Torres in his downtown office. The private investigator looked like he hadn't slept in days, but his eyes were sharp with discovery. "I found Clarissa," he said without preamble. "She's alive." Catherine's hand flew to her mouth, and Richard gripped her other hand tightly. "Where is she? Is she okay?" Torres pulled out a file folder, thick with documents and photographs. "She's been living under an assumed name in a rehabilitation facility in Massachusetts, a place called Meadowbrook Recovery Center. They specialize in helping women who've escaped domestic violence and trafficking situations." "Trafficking?" Catherine's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm afraid so. From what I've been able to piece together, Clarissa got involved with a man named Marcus Delacroix about 7 years ago. He presented himself as a successful businessman, but he's actually a mid-level player in a criminal organization that operates across New England. They deal in drugs, illegal gambling, and human trafficking." Richard felt his blood run cold. And Clarissa was. Clarissa was initially his girlfriend. But when she tried to leave him, he didn't let her go. He used her addiction against her, kept her dependent, controlled her completely. According to the staff at Meadowbrook, Clarissa managed to escape him when she found out she was pregnant. She was terrified he'd use the baby to control her, or worse, that he'd sell the child. Catherine began to cry silently, tears streaming down her face. "My sister. My baby sister went through all of that, and I didn't know. I didn't help her." "Mrs. Hartford, Clarissa didn't want you to know. She was protecting you. Delacroix is a dangerous man with a long reach. If he'd known she had family with resources, he would have used that against her, against all of you." Torres slid a photograph across the desk. "This was taken 3 days ago at Meadowbrook. The woman in the photograph was painfully thin, her dark hair cut short, her eyes haunted but clean and sober. But it was unmistakably Clarissa. She had Catherine's bone structure, their grandmother's delicate hands, and a sadness that seemed to radiate from the image. "She's been there for 6 weeks, Torres continued. "She checked herself in under the name Sarah Mitchell. It took me this long to find her because she was very careful about covering her tracks. The facility has strict privacy protocols, but I was able to confirm her identity through the birthmark and a DNA sample one of the counselors helped me obtain. Does she know we've been looking for her? Richard asked. Not yet. I wanted to speak with you first before approaching her. Mr. Hartford, Mrs. Hartford, you need to understand something. Clarissa has been through severe trauma, PTSD, depression, substance abuse issues that she's working through. The counselors at Meadowbrook say she's making progress, but she's fragile. If we approach this wrong, if we overwhelm her, she might run again. Catherine wiped her eyes and straightened her spine, channeling the strength their grandmother had always said ran in their blood. What do we need to do? The facilities director, Dr. Sarah Brennan, has agreed to facilitate a meeting. She knows about Tyler. Clarissa talks about him in her therapy sessions, though she doesn't know we've connected the dots. Dr. Brennan thinks it would be therapeutic for Clarissa to know her son is safe, but we have to be careful about how we tell her. When can we see her? Catherine's voice was steady now, determined. Tomorrow afternoon, if you're ready. But Mrs. Hartford, you need to prepare yourself. Clarissa may not be the sister you remember. Trauma changes people. She may be angry, resentful, or unable to process what's happened. You can't push her or pressure her. You can only offer support and let her make her own choices about what comes next. I understand, Catherine said. I'll do whatever she needs. I just need her to know that she's not alone anymore, that she never has to be alone again. That night, Catherine couldn't sleep. She sat in Tyler's nursery, holding him and reading through Clarissa's journal again, seeing new meaning in every entry now that she understood the full context of what her sister had been running from. The entries about him finding her, the coded references to danger, the desperation that had led her to abandon her son rather than risk him falling into the hands of a monster. Your mama is so brave, Catherine whispered to the sleeping baby. She saved you. She protected you the only way she knew how, and now we're going to help her come home. Mia appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Mommy, why are you crying? Catherine hadn't realized she was crying again. She wiped her eyes and smiled at her daughter. Come here, sweetheart. Mia climbed into her mother's lap, careful not to jostle Tyler. Did you find Aunt Clarissa? Yes, baby, we found her. Daddy and I are going to see her tomorrow. Is she sick? Catherine considered how to explain it in terms a 6-year-old could understand. She's been very sad and scared for a long time. She's in a special place where doctors help people who are sad feel better. Can I come too? I want to meet her. I want to tell her that Tyler is happy and that we love him. Not yet, darling. Aunt Clarissa needs some time before she can meet everyone. She's been through some very hard things, and she needs to feel safe first. Mia was quiet for a moment, then said something that stopped Catherine's heart. The bad man hurt her, didn't he? The one she was hiding from. Catherine stared at her daughter. Mia, how did you know about that? I read some of the journal, Mia admitted, looking guilty. I'm sorry, Mommy. I know I wasn't supposed to. But I wanted to understand why Tyler's mama left him. I wanted to know if she loved him. Instead of being angry, Catherine pulled her daughter closer. And what did you learn? That she loved him so much that she gave him away to keep him safe from the bad man. That's the hardest kind of love there is. Mia looked up at her mother with wise eyes. You have to tell Aunt Clarissa that the bad man can't hurt her anymore. You have to tell her she can come home. Okay, Mommy? Okay, baby, I'll tell her. The next afternoon, Richard and Catherine drove to Massachusetts in tense silence. The Meadowbrook Recovery Center was a converted estate in the countryside, surrounded by trees that were brilliant with fall colors. It looked peaceful, safe, the kind of place designed to help broken people heal. Dr. Sarah Brennan met them in her office, a warm woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Mr. and Mrs. Hartford, thank you for coming. Before we proceed, I need to explain what to expect. Clarissa, Sarah as she knows herself here, has been doing well in her recovery. She's clean, she's participating in therapy, she's making real progress. But she carries tremendous guilt about her son. She believes she failed him by abandoning him. She didn't fail him, Catherine said fiercely. She saved him. I agree, and that's what we've been working on in therapy. But hearing it from you, seeing proof that Tyler is safe and loved, that could be transformative for her. Or it could be overwhelming. We have to go slowly. Dr. Brennan stood. She's waiting in the garden. She knows someone is here to see her, but not who. Are you ready? Catherine and Richard followed the doctor through the facility, past common rooms where other residents sat in group therapy or quiet conversation. The garden was beautiful, filled with late-blooming roses and chrysanthemums. And there, sitting on a bench beneath an oak tree, was Clarissa. She looked up as they approached, and Catherine saw the moment recognition hit. Clarissa's eyes went wide, her face losing all color. She stood, stumbling backward, looking like she might run. "Clarissa," Catherine said, her voice breaking, "please, please don't run." Clarissa froze, her eyes darting between Catherine and Richard, clearly trying to understand what was happening. "How did you find me? You can't be here. It's not safe. He might—" "Marcus Delacroix can't hurt you anymore," Richard said firmly. "We know everything, Clarissa. We know what he did to you. We know why you ran. And we know about Tyler." At the sound of her son's name, Clarissa's legs seemed to give out. She sat back down on the bench hard, her hands covering her face. "Tyler. Is he? Did he?" Catherine rushed forward and dropped to her knees in front of her sister. "He's alive. He's healthy. He's beautiful, Clarissa. Mia found him exactly where you left him, and we've been taking care of him. He's safe. He's home." Clarissa looked up, tears streaming down her thin face. "Mia? Your little girl found him?" "She saved him," Catherine said, taking her sister's hands. "She pulled him out of the river, called for help, refused to leave his side. She's been helping me take care of him every single day. She talks to him about you. She tells him stories about his brave mama who loved him enough to make sure he was safe." Clarissa sobbed, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her entire body. Catherine pulled her into a hug, and Clarissa collapsed against her, crying like she hadn't allowed herself to cry in years. "I'm so sorry," Clarissa gasped. "I'm so sorry for everything. For disappearing, for not coming to you, for leaving my baby in a river like he was nothing." "Stop," Catherine said firmly, pulling back to look her sister in the eye. "You listen to me," Clarissa rose. "You protected your son from a monster. You made the hardest choice any mother could make because you knew it was the only way to keep him safe. You are not a failure. You are a hero. But I should have come to you sooner. I should have asked for help instead of—" "I made you feel like you couldn't," Catherine interrupted, her own tears falling now. "When you were struggling, when you were using, I lectured you instead of listening. I judged you instead of helping you. I made you think your family would reject you. That's on me, Clarissa. That's my failure, not yours." Clarissa shook her head weakly. "You don't understand what I've done, Catherine. The things I did to survive, the people I hurt. I don't care," Catherine said fiercely. "I don't care about any of that. You're my sister. You're Tyler's mother. And you're coming home. Not today, not until you're ready. But when you are ready, we'll be waiting. All of us, your family." Richard knelt beside them, adding his presence to their circle. "Clarissa, I've already spoken with our lawyers. We can provide protection, resources, whatever you need to feel safe. Delacroix won't touch you or Tyler. I promise you that." "He's powerful," Clarissa whispered. "He has connections everywhere. If he finds out I have family with money—" "Then let him find out," Richard said with cold determination. "Let him try something. I have resources too, Clarissa. Legal, financial, and yes, physical protection if necessary. You're not alone anymore. You don't have to fight by yourself." Dr. Brennan, who had been watching from a respectful distance, approached. Clarissa, remember what we talked about in therapy, about letting people help you, about trusting that you deserve safety and love. Clarissa nodded weakly, looking between her sister and Richard with an expression of desperate hope mixed with terror. Can I see him? Can I see Tyler? I don't expect to, I know I gave up my rights when I left him, but if I could just see him, just know he's really okay. You didn't give up anything, Catherine said. You're his mother. You will always be his mother. And yes, you can see him whenever you're ready. The visit stretched into hours. They sat in the garden as the autumn sun moved across the sky, and Clarissa told them everything. About meeting Marcus when she was 21, broken and lost after dropping out of college. About how charming he'd seemed at first, how he'd promised to take care of her. About the slow realization that she was trapped, that he controlled every aspect of her life. About the drugs he'd supplied that kept her dependent. About the things he'd made her do, the people he'd forced her to interact with. When I found out I was pregnant, something shifted, Clarissa said, staring at her hands. I'd lost myself completely, but I couldn't lose my baby. I couldn't let him grow up in that world. I planned my escape for months, waited until Marcus was out of the state on business, and then I ran. The necklace, Catherine said. Grandmother's necklace. You kept it all those years. Clarissa touched her throat where the necklace had hung for so long. It was the only thing of value I had, but I could never bring myself to sell it. Grandmother always said it would protect us. When Tyler was born, I put it on him, and I swear, Catherine, sometimes it felt like it was keeping us safe, like it was guiding me where to go, warning me when danger was close. She laughed weakly. I know that sounds crazy. It doesn't, Catherine said, thinking of the way the stone glowed brighter when Tyler was upset, the way it pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. I've seen it. There's something about that necklace, Clarissa. Something our grandmother knew. As the afternoon wore into evening, they made plans. Clarissa would continue her treatment at Meadowbrook for another month, completing the program and building the strength she needed to face the world again. Torres would continue monitoring for any sign of Delacroix or his associates. When Clarissa was ready, she would come home to the Hartford estate, where a suite of rooms would be prepared for her and Tyler. What if he doesn't remember me? Clarissa asked quietly as they prepared to leave. What if he sees me as a stranger? Then we'll help him remember, Catherine promised. But Clarissa, you need to know something. That little boy has your eyes, your smile, your strength. He's a fighter just like his mama, and he's going to be so happy to meet you. On the drive home, Catherine was quiet, processing everything. Richard reached over and squeezed her hand. You did well today. I let her down for so many years, Catherine said softly. I was so focused on maintaining appearances, on being the perfect daughter, the perfect wife, I forgot how to just be a sister. You're getting a second chance now, you both are. At home, Mia met them at the door, her face eager with questions. Did you see Aunt Clarissa? Is she nice? When can she come home? When can I meet her? Catherine scooped up her daughter and held her tight. She's wonderful, baby. She's sad and scared, but she's wonderful, and she's so grateful to you for saving Tyler. Can I show her my chart, the one that shows all of Tyler's firsts, so she knows what she missed but also knows we took good care of him? Catherine's heart swelled. That's perfect, Mia. She would love that. That night, as Catherine fed Tyler his bedtime bottle, she told him about his mother, about how brave Clarissa was, how much she loved him, how hard she'd fought to keep him safe. The baby gazed up at her with those dark eyes, Clarissa's eyes, and the green necklace pulsed with steady light. Your mama's coming home, Catherine whispered. She just needs a little more time to get strong. But she's coming, Tyler, and we're going to be a family, all of us together. The next month was a time of careful preparation and cautious hope. Catherine visited Clarissa at Meadowbrook 3 times a week, sometimes bringing Mia, sometimes going alone. The sisters slowly rebuilt their relationship, sharing memories of their childhood, talking through the years they'd lost, planning for a future that had seemed impossible just weeks before. Mia took to visiting with enthusiasm, bringing her chart of Tyler's milestones, and chattering about everything her cousin would need to learn when he got bigger. Clarissa would sit and listen, tears streaming down her face as this brave 6-year-old described the life her son was living, the love he was receiving. "I made him a drawing," Mia said during one visit, pulling a picture from her backpack. "It's of all of us together. See? There's Daddy and Mommy and me and Tyler and you. We're all holding hands by the river. But this time it's sunny and there's no basket because Tyler doesn't need rescuing anymore. He's home." Clarissa took the drawing with shaking hands and pressed it to her chest. "Mia, you're an angel. Do you know that? You're my son's guardian angel." "I'm just his cousin," Mia said matter-of-factly. "That's what family does. We take care of each other." Meanwhile, Torres had been working with law enforcement to build a case against Marcus Delacroix. The information Clarissa provided about his operations, combined with evidence Torres had gathered, was enough for the FBI to open a formal investigation. Delacroix was being watched, his movements tracked, his organization slowly being dismantled from within. "He doesn't know about Tyler," Torres assured them during a security briefing at the Hartford mansion. As far as Delacroix knows, Clarissa disappeared alone. The baby wasn't registered in any system under her real name, and she covered her tracks well. He's looking for a woman on the run, not a family with a child. "What happens when he finds out she has a son?" Richard asked. "If he finds out, we'll be ready. I've installed a state-of-the-art security system here. The local police have been briefed. And I've hired a team of private security contractors who will maintain a discreet presence on the property. Delacroix isn't stupid. He knows the FBI is closing in. The last thing he'll want is to draw more attention by going after a wealthy, well-connected family." Catherine wasn't entirely reassured, but she trusted Richard and Torres to handle the security aspects. Her focus was on Clarissa's recovery and preparing Tyler for the eventual reunion with his mother. She'd started showing the baby photographs of Clarissa, telling him stories about his mama, holding the photos close so Tyler could see Clarissa's face. One afternoon, as Catherine was doing this, Tyler reached out and touched Clarissa's photograph, his tiny hand pressing against his mother's image. The green necklace flared so brightly that Catherine gasped, and for just a moment she could have sworn she felt something, a warmth, a presence, a connection that transcended the physical distance between mother and child. "She's coming soon, baby," Catherine whispered. "Your mama's coming soon." The day finally arrived in mid-November. Clarissa had completed her program at Meadowbrook and was being discharged. Dr. Brennan had given her clearance to leave, with the stipulation that she continue outpatient therapy and attend support group meetings. Clarissa was clean, healthy, and ready to face her future, and her son. The plan was for Catherine to pick up Clarissa in the morning and bring her home. Mia was at school, which Richard would pick her up from early so she could be home for the reunion. Tyler was with Carla, being dressed in a special outfit Mia had picked out, a soft blue onesie that matched his blanket from the day he was found. As Catherine drove to Meadowbrook, her phone rang. It was Torres, and his voice was tense. "Mrs. Hartford, we have a situation. Delacroix made a move. He's been asking questions about Clarissa, showing her photograph around Hartford, offering money for information. Someone at the clinic where Clarissa went during her pregnancy talked. He knows about the baby." Catherine's blood ran cold. "How much does he know?" "Not enough. He knows there was a baby, but not where the baby is, or that Clarissa left him with family. But Mrs. Hartford, he's actively looking now. We need to be very careful about Clarissa coming to the estate." If he's watching her known associates, your family connections, he might make the link. What do you suggest? Bring her home, but we'll take extra precautions. I'm sending additional security to the estate now. Do not deviate from your planned route. Stay in public places. I'll have people watching. Catherine's hands trembled on the steering wheel, but she forced herself to remain calm. She'd come too far to let fear stop her now. Understood. We'll be careful. At Meadowbrook, Clarissa was waiting with her few possessions in a small duffel bag. She looked nervous but determined, wearing clothes Catherine had brought her during previous visits. When she saw Catherine's expression, her face fell. What's wrong? Did something happen? Is Tyler okay? Tyler's fine, Catherine assured her quickly. But we need to talk in the car. As they drove, Catherine explained the situation. Clarissa's face went through a range of emotions: fear, anger, guilt, and finally a steely determination that reminded Catherine of their grandmother. I won't let him hurt my son, Clarissa said flatly. I won't let him use Tyler to get to me. If I need to disappear again, if I need to leave— No, Catherine said firmly. No more running, Clarissa. We face this together as a family. You, me, Richard, the kids. We have resources, protection, legal power. Delacroix is about to find out what it means to go after a Hartford. You don't know him, Catherine. He's ruthless. He doesn't care about laws or consequences. And he doesn't know us, Catherine interrupted. He's used to preying on vulnerable women alone, but you're not alone anymore, and you're not vulnerable. You're a mother fighting for her child, and there is nothing more powerful than that. The drive home felt both too long and too short. Every mile brought them closer to Tyler, to home, to safety. But it also brought them closer to whatever confrontation might be brewing with Delacroix. When they pulled up to the Hartford estate, Clarissa stared at the mansion with wide eyes. This is where you live. Catherine, this is. This is a palace. This is home, Catherine corrected gently. And it's your home too now, yours and Tyler's. Richard met them at the door, and Clarissa was struck by his presence. The confident stance, the expensive suit, the air of power that came from years of commanding boardrooms. But his eyes were kind as he extended his hand. Clarissa, welcome home. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for everything, Clarissa stammered. For taking care of Tyler, for finding me, for— You don't have to thank us, Richard said warmly. Your family. This is what family does. Mia appeared then, having been waiting impatiently despite instructions to give the adults time to talk. Aunt Clarissa! She shouted, running forward and throwing her arms around Clarissa's waist. You're here. You're really here. Tyler is going to be so excited. I told him every day that his mama was coming, and now you're here. Clarissa dropped to her knees, eye level with Mia, tears streaming down her face. You're Mia. You're the one who saved my son. I'm your niece, Mia corrected. And yes, I found Tyler. But you saved him first by making sure he was someplace safe where family would find him. You're the hero, Aunt Clarissa. Clarissa pulled Mia into a hug, sobbing into the little girl's shoulder. Catherine and Richard stepped back, giving them space, both fighting their own tears. After a moment, Mia pulled back and took Clarissa's hand. Do you want to meet Tyler now? He's in the nursery with Carla. I've been showing him your picture every day, so he'll recognize you. Clarissa looked at Catherine, panic and hope warring in her expression. Is it okay? Can I? He's your son, Clarissa. Come on. They walked through the house, and Clarissa tried to take it all in. The elegant furnishings, the family photographs on the walls, the obvious wealth and security that her son had been living in. It was everything she'd wanted for him, everything she could never have provided. At the nursery door, Clarissa paused, her hand on the doorknob. What if he cries? What if he's afraid of me? Then we'll go slowly, Catherine said. We'll give him time. But Clarissa, that little boy has been feeling your love every single day through that necklace. He knows you, even if he doesn't remember you. Clarissa pushed open the door. The nursery was beautiful, painted in soft blues and greens, filled with toys and books and love. Carla stood by the crib, and in it, propped up on pillows, was Tyler. He'd grown so much in the 3 months since Clarissa had last seen him. His dark hair was thick now, his eyes bright and alert, and around his neck the green necklace glowed with steady light. "Oh my God!" Clarissa breathed, frozen in place. "He's so big. He's so beautiful." Tyler turned his head at the sound of her voice, and something extraordinary happened. The necklace blazed with brilliant green light, brighter than Catherine had ever seen it. Tyler's face broke into a huge smile, and he reached out his arms toward Clarissa, making excited gurgling sounds. "He knows you," Catherine whispered. "Clarissa, he knows you." Clarissa rushed forward, her legs finally remembering how to work. She reached into the crib with shaking hands and lifted her son into her arms for the first time in 3 months. Tyler immediately snuggled against her chest, his tiny hand gripping her shirt, and the necklace's light surrounded them both like an embrace. "My baby," Clarissa sobbed, holding him close. "My sweet, perfect baby. Mama's here. Mama's finally here. I'm so sorry I had to leave you. I'm so sorry. But I'm here now, and I'm never leaving you again. Never." Tyler made happy sounds, patting Clarissa's face with his small hand, seemingly fascinated by the tears streaming down her cheeks. Everyone in the room was crying. Catherine, Richard, Mia, even Carla, who'd only known this family for a few years, but understood the magnitude of this moment. Mia moved closer and gently touched the glowing necklace. "See, Aunt Clarissa? I told you, the necklace kept him safe for you. It's magic." "It's love," Clarissa said, looking at her sister with profound gratitude. "It's the love of all the strong women in our family who came before us. Grandmother knew. She knew this necklace would protect him when I couldn't." "Oh." They stayed in the nursery for over an hour, Clarissa holding Tyler, feeding him, playing with him, memorizing every detail of his face. Mia sat beside them, chattering about all of Tyler's favorite things, showing Clarissa the chart she'd made, the drawings she'd saved, the little treasures she'd collected for her cousin. "This is his favorite toy," Mia explained, handing Clarissa a soft stuffed elephant. "And he likes when you sing to him. Mummy sings him this song." She hummed a lullaby, and Tyler's eyes drooped peacefully. "Your daughter is remarkable," Clarissa said to Catherine and Richard. "She has such a kind heart." "Yeah, she gets it from her aunt," Richard said meaningfully. "The woman who was brave enough to save her son's life by letting him go." Later that evening, after Tyler was asleep in his crib and Clarissa had been shown to her own suite of rooms, the adults gathered in Richard's study. Torres had arrived with updates on the security situation. "Delacroix is getting aggressive," Torres reported. "He's convinced Clarissa is in the Hartford area. He's had people watching the clinic, watching women's shelters, even watching your estate, Mr. Hartford, though he doesn't seem to have made the connection yet." "What's our move?" Richard asked. "We let him make the connection," Clarissa said suddenly, standing up with determination in her eyes. "We stop hiding and we end this." "Clarissa, that's too dangerous," Catherine started. "He's never going to stop looking," Clarissa interrupted. "As long as he doesn't know where Tyler is, as long as there's uncertainty, he'll keep searching. He'll keep being a threat. But if we control the narrative, if we show him that Tyler is protected by one of the most powerful families in Connecticut, that there are legal and physical barriers he can't cross, maybe he'll realize he can't win." Torres looked at Richard thoughtfully. "She's not wrong. Right now, Delacroix is operating on the assumption that Clarissa is vulnerable and alone. If we demonstrate overwhelming force and protection, if we make it clear that going after her or the baby would bring down more trouble than it's worth, he might cut his losses and disappear. Or he might escalate," Catherine said worriedly. "That's why we document everything," Richard said. his business mind working through the strategy. We work with the FBI, we create a paper trail, we make sure any move he makes is recorded and prosecutable. We don't just protect Clarissa and Tyler, we give law enforcement what they need to put Delacroix away permanently. Clarissa nodded. I'm willing to testify about everything he did, everything he made me do. I'm not afraid of him anymore. Then we move forward, Richard decided. Torres, coordinate with the FBI. Let's end this threat once and for all. The plan was set in motion quickly. The FBI had been building a case against Delacroix for months, and Clarissa's testimony would be the linchpin that connected dozens of crimes across multiple states. But testifying meant making her location known, which meant maximum security at the Hartford estate and careful coordination with law enforcement. Agent Rachel Morrison, the FBI's lead investigator on the Delacroix case, met with them 2 days later. She was a sharp woman in her 40s, with kind eyes but a no-nonsense demeanor. Ms. Hartford, I'm sorry, Miss Rose, she addressed Clarissa, using her maiden name. Your testimony could bring down one of the most prolific trafficking operations in New England, but I won't lie to you. The moment you go on record, Delacroix will know exactly where you are. We can provide protection, but there's always a risk. I understand, Clarissa said firmly, but I have my son back now. I have my family. I'm not running anymore. Whatever it takes to make sure Tyler is safe, that other women are safe from him, I'll do it. Agent Morrison nodded approvingly. Good. We'll schedule your deposition for next week. Until then, stay on the estate, stay alert, and trust the security team Mr. Torres has assembled. The days leading up to the deposition were tense, but also filled with joy. Clarissa spent every possible moment with Tyler, making up for lost time, learning his rhythms and preferences, bonding with the son she'd thought she'd lost forever. Mia was a constant presence, showing Clarissa everything she'd need to know about being Tyler's mum. He doesn't like peas, Mia would say seriously, but he loves sweet potatoes, and you have to warm his bottles to exactly the right temperature, not too hot and not too cold, and when he's fussy, you walk around with him like this. She demonstrated her specific bouncing walk that she'd developed over months of helping care for Tyler. Clarissa watched her niece with wonder. Mia, you've taken such good care of him. I could never thank you enough. You don't have to thank me, Mia said, echoing her father's words from weeks ago. We're family. That's what we do. Catherine watched these interactions with a full heart. Her daughter had somehow developed wisdom beyond her years through this experience, and her sister was slowly healing, growing stronger each day. The family she'd thought was broken was actually becoming whole. On the night before Clarissa's deposition, she couldn't sleep. She found Catherine in Tyler's nursery, as she often was, watching the baby sleep. Can't sleep either, Clarissa asked softly. I keep thinking about tomorrow, Catherine admitted, about what happens when Delacroix finds out. Clarissa came to stand beside her sister, both women gazing down at the sleeping baby whose presence had transformed all their lives. Catherine, I need to tell you something. If anything happens to me, don't say that. Listen, please. If anything happens, I need you to raise Tyler. Not just care for him temporarily, but raise him as your own. Adopt him. Give him your name, your protection, your love. Let Mia be his sister in every way that matters. Clarissa, I've already drawn up papers with Richard's lawyers, Clarissa continued. You and Richard are designated as Tyler's guardians in my will. But Catherine, I need you to promise me that you'll tell him about me. Not just that I gave birth to him, but who I was before Delacroix, before I got lost. Tell him I loved reading, that I wanted to be a teacher, that I used to make up silly songs and loved thunderstorms. Tell him about grandmother and her necklace and the strong women in our family. Promise me he'll know where he comes from. Catherine pulled her sister into a fierce hug. I promise. But Clarissa, you're going to be here to tell him yourself. You're going to watch him grow up. You're going to teach him all those things yourself." "I hope so," Clarissa whispered. "God, I hope so." The morning of the deposition arrived grey and cold, matching the tension everyone felt. Clarissa dressed carefully in clothes Catherine had helped her choose. Professional but not too formal, strong but not aggressive. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw someone she barely recognized, a woman who'd survived hell and come out the other side. "You've got this," she told her reflection. "You're doing this for Tyler, for every woman Delacroix hurt. You're strong enough." The deposition took place at FBI headquarters downtown. Clarissa rode in an unmarked vehicle with Agent Morrison, while Richard and Catherine followed in a separate car. Torres's security team maintained a discreet perimeter. Mia was at home with Carla and Tyler, with additional security watching the estate. Inside the sterile conference room, Clarissa faced a panel of FBI agents, federal prosecutors, and recording equipment. For 6 hours, she told them everything. About meeting Delacroix, about the gradual control he'd exerted over her life, about the drugs and the isolation and the threats, about the other women she'd seen him abuse, about the things she'd been forced to participate in that still haunted her nightmares. She told them about getting pregnant and realizing she had to escape, or her son would be trapped in that life. About planning her escape, about the terrifying months on the run, about making the impossible decision to leave Tyler somewhere he'd be found by family who could protect him in ways she never could. By the time she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Agent Morrison squeezed her hand. "Miss Rose, you've given us everything we need. Marcus Delacroix is going to prison for the rest of his life, and we're going to shut down his entire organization. You're incredibly brave." "I'm just a mother," Clarissa said, exhausted but relieved. "I did what any mother would do." They left the building in late afternoon, everyone tense and alert. The testimony was sealed, but they all knew word would get back to Delacroix quickly. He had sources in places he shouldn't, people on his payroll who fed him information. The question was what he would do when he found out. The answer came that night. The Hartford family had just finished dinner, a celebration of sorts marking Clarissa's successful deposition and their determination to move forward as a family. Mia was telling a long, rambling story about her day at school, and Tyler was in Clarissa's arms, fighting sleep but determined to stay awake for the interesting voices around him. That's when the security system's alarm shrieked to life. Torres burst into the dining room, his hand on his concealed weapon. "Everyone, to the safe room, now!" Richard didn't hesitate. He scooped up Mia, while Catherine grabbed Clarissa and Tyler, and they all ran for the reinforced safe room Richard had installed in the mansion's basement. Behind them, they could hear Torres barking orders into his radio, calling for backup, coordinating the security response. In the safe room, Mia clung to her father, crying now, while Clarissa held Tyler close, the baby finally screaming from the commotion. Catherine pulled them all together, her heart pounding but her mind clear. They were safe here. This room could withstand anything. Above them they could hear sounds, shouts, crashes, what might have been gunshots. Mia buried her face in Richard's chest. "Daddy, what's happening?" "Everything's going to be okay, sweetheart," Richard said with a confidence he didn't quite feel. "The security team is handling it. We're safe here." Minutes felt like hours. Finally, Torres's voice came through the intercom. "All clear. Mr. Hartford, you can come out. Police are en route." They emerged cautiously to find the house still intact, but with signs of struggle. Broken furniture, scattered papers. Torres met them with a grim expression. Delacroix sent a team. 4 men, armed. They tried to breach the perimeter. My team intercepted them before they reached the house. He turned to Clarissa. "They were asking for you specifically. They weren't here to rob the place. They were here for you and the baby." Clarissa's face went white and she clutched Tyler tighter. The baby had quieted, seemingly sensing his mother's fear, and the green necklace glowed protectively around his neck. "Where are they now?" Richard demanded. "Detained and turned over to police. Agent Morrison is on her way. This was a federal offense: interstate kidnapping attempt, conspiracy, assault on federal witnesses. Mr. Huntford, this actually works in our favor. Delacroix just handed us everything we need to arrest him tonight." Indeed, within hours, Agent Morrison called with news that made everyone breathe easier. Marcus Delacroix had been arrested at his nightclub in Providence, charged with multiple federal crimes, including the attempted kidnapping tonight. His phone records showed he'd ordered the attack directly. His entire organization was being rolled up, associates arrested, assets seized, victims contacted and offered protection. "It's over," Morrison told them. "He's going to federal prison for the rest of his life. He can't hurt you anymore, any of you." Clarissa sank into a chair, Tyler in her arms, and finally allowed herself to fall apart. Catherine knelt beside her, holding both her sister and her nephew, while Mia wrapped her small arms around all of them, and Richard stood guard over his family. "It's really over?" Clarissa whispered. "It's really over," Catherine confirmed. "You're free, Clarissa. You and Tyler are free." The weeks that followed were busy with legal proceedings, interviews and therapy sessions, but they were also filled with healing and joy. Clarissa formally moved into the Hartford mansion, her suite of rooms becoming a true home. She started outpatient therapy, attended support groups, and slowly rebuilt her life with the support of her family. Tyler thrived with his mother back in his life. The bond between them was profound and immediate, as though the time apart had never happened. The green necklace continued to glow around his neck, a constant reminder of the family's strength and love. Mia took her role as big cousin seriously, already planning all the adventures they'd have when Tyler was old enough to walk and talk and explore. She'd started a new chart tracking his development. First time Mama fed me, first time I laughed at Mia's jokes, first time the whole family was together. One evening, as winter's first snow began to fall, the family gathered in the living room. A fire crackled in the fireplace, casting warm shadows. Tyler was doing tummy time on a blanket, while Mia encouraged him to reach for toys. Clarissa sat nearby, her face peaceful in a way Catherine hadn't seen since they were children. Richard was reading a book, but kept looking up to smile at his family. Catherine watched them all, her husband, her daughter, her sister, her nephew, and felt a completeness she'd never known she was missing. They'd been through so much, survived so much, but they'd done it together. "Catherine," Clarissa said softly, "I never properly thanked you for not giving up on me, for fighting for me and Tyler, for giving us both a second chance at life." "You don't need to thank me," Catherine said, settling beside her sister. "You're my family. That's what we do." Mia looked up from where she was playing with Tyler. "That's what I always say. See, Aunt Clarissa? We Hartfords stick together. We're a team." "Yes, we are," Clarissa agreed, pulling Mia into a hug. "The best team in the world." As the snow fell outside and the fire burned warm inside, Tyler finally managed to grab the toy Mia had been encouraging him to reach for. He made a triumphant sound, and the green necklace flared with light. Everyone cheered for him, and the baby beamed, not understanding why, but delighted by the attention and love surrounding him. "You know," Richard said thoughtfully, "someday Tyler is going to ask about that necklace, about how he came to us, about everything that happened. And we'll tell him the truth," Clarissa said firmly. "That his mother loved him enough to make the hardest choice, that his cousin saved his life, that his family fought for him, that he was born from struggle but raised in love." She looked at the glowing stone. "And that our grandmother's gift protected him when nothing else could." "It's a good story," Mia decided. "A true story. And it has a happy ending." "Yes, it does," Catherine agreed, pulling her daughter close. Thanks to a brave little girl who wouldn't let go of a basket in the rain. Mia giggled. I had to save him, Mommy. He's family. As the evening wore on, Tyler fell asleep on the blanket, surrounded by his family. Mia eventually curled up against her mother, fighting sleep but not wanting to miss a moment. Clarissa leaned against her sister, both women watching the children with hearts full of gratitude and hope. We made it, Clarissa whispered. We actually made it. Yes, we did, Catherine whispered back. We made it home. The green necklace pulsed one final time, bright and beautiful, as if their grandmother's spirit was acknowledging the completion of its mission. 4 generations of Hartford women, grandmother, mother, daughters, grandson, connected by love, sacrifice, and an heirloom that had proven to be more than just a family treasure. It was a symbol of the strength that ran through their blood, the courage that defined them, and the unbreakable bonds of family that could survive anything. Outside, the snow continued to fall, blanketing the Hartford estate in pristine white. Inside, a family that had been broken was now whole. A baby who had been abandoned now had a mother, an aunt, an uncle, and a fiercely protective cousin. A woman who had been lost had found her way home. A marriage had deepened through shared purpose. A child had learned that bravery sometimes means doing the hardest thing because it's the right thing. And a mysterious green necklace glowed softly in the firelight, its work complete, its promise fulfilled. Until the next generation would need its protection, it would rest peacefully around the neck of a little boy who would grow up knowing he was loved beyond measure, saved by a 6-year-old girl brave enough to follow her heart into a storm and pull a stranger from the river, only to discover he was family all along. The end came not with dramatic revelations or last-minute rescues, but with this, a quiet evening, a sleeping baby, a family together. Sometimes the best endings are the simplest ones. Sometimes coming home is the greatest adventure of all, and sometimes, just sometimes, a child's pure heart and courage can change everything.